Okay. All right. Welcome everybody to part three of our certification, I think part three of our certification pathway series. Thank you for joining us for this one focused on women and minority owned certifications. We've covered so far, we've done a general overview. We've covered the 8A and HubZone programs. So there's two more left in this 5-part series after today. Um, so we will be going through each of these are available on demand. So you will be able to see these once we've held them. So if you aren't able to stay for the whole thing, you're able to join us and watch them at your convenience, or if you also want to go back and review. So to get started, we'll just do a little bit of overview about the Lehigh SBDC in case you're not familiar with us, and also cover some of the housekeeping for today's session. So the SBDC, the Small Business Development Centers, are part of a nationwide network. And we are a service funded through the U.S. Small Business Administration. And here in Pennsylvania, we're also funded by the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. And that allows us to provide no-cost, confidential, one-on-one consulting services to both current and future entrepreneurs in Pennsylvania. So no matter where you're joining us from, I'll show a map as to where you can find your local center. But our services cover everything from the idea stage to exit. Whether you're thinking about starting a business and just need to know what's involved, or how feasible your idea is, all the way to you're looking to sell your business, and whether it's transfer it to others in your family, or sell it to a partner or somebody else, we can help you with everything in between. Obtaining financing, looking at a business plan, selling abroad, selling to the government, which is part of what this session is about, or even just growth to sustain, what you've built so far. So really, we are a resource, and again, a no-cost resource, at no matter what stage of your business. As I said, we are part of a statewide network, so we are one of 15 centers that cover the state of Pennsylvania. So we cover Lehigh, Northampton, and Bucks County. But no matter where you're joining us from today, there is an SBDC that serves you. And if you happen to be out of state, there's also an SBDC that can assist you in, no matter what part of the U.S. that you're located in. So please feel free, if we are not the correct location, you can certainly reach out and we can point you in the right direction. But just so you can get an idea of where, if what county, from where your county is, what center serves you. So some quick housekeeping. The webinar is being recorded. The recording and slides will be sent after the webinar, so you will get an email automatically from Zoom once the recording has been processed, and I will get the slides uploaded hopefully today, but sometime this week. Same with any handouts that I'm discussing. I have a couple of them from the previous sessions that I have to upload, but I will get those uploaded as soon as possible as well. There is no chat function for this webinar, but there is a Q&A box. So if you do have questions, I believe it's at the bottom of your screen. My layout's a little different than the participant viewer, but if there is a Q&A box, so you can click that, ask a question, and how I usually do it is if the question's related to something I'm talking about at that moment, I'll do my best to answer it. Otherwise, I'll probably save it till the end and answer them as we go through. So please feel free to ask questions throughout, and I'll do my best to get to all of them. So what we're going to talk about today, like I said, women-owned and minority-owned business certifications. We're going to talk specifically about the women-owned small business, or the WOSB program, the economically disadvantaged women-owned small business program, which is the EDWOSB, the minority business enterprise certification, which is the MBE, and we'll also again just throw in a little recap about 8A, since that kind of applies to to this program as well. And again, just a couple questions that we got already. Yeah, nobody here can, everybody is muted and cameras are off. So there's no, this is webinar style. So it's listen only mode. And if you weren't able to attend the previous sessions, yes, you can. If you go to the main page where you registered, you should be able to watch those on demand. And this one will be up there as well at that point. All right. And then we'll also, give you some resources and next steps on how to take advantage of the services available to you. So why women-owned and minority-owned certifications are important. Importantly, they promote diversity and inclusion in federal contracting, as we discussed in the last couple webinars. Normally, without these certifications, without these set-asides, you'd be competing against the largest companies in the world to provide these contracts. So, for example, if you're selling office supplies, you would be competing against Staples instead of competing against other small businesses. So these set-asides restrict competition to only those businesses that meet that particular criteria. So it could just be you're a small business. It could be women-owned, minority-owned, 8A, veteran. And we're talking about all of those throughout this series. So it gets you access to set aside contracts. Sometimes there can be sole source opportunities available, especially through 8A. These certifications can provide increased visibility in the marketplace because these certifications that we're talking about today can have applicability beyond the federal marketplace. So that's why these two are sort of grouped together in its own session. Additionally, depending on which certification route you go through, there can be networking and partnership opportunities available. Some of the certifying agencies act almost as a chamber of commerce. So there are other opportunities beyond the certification itself, which we will discuss. And certainly, the more that diverse businesses are doing business with federal, state, local governments, the more that contributes to economic growth and also helps businesses become more sustainable in their growth. So talking about the WOSB and EDWOSB certifications, what it is, WOSB is women-owned small business. So that's a specific federal certification for businesses that are 51% owned and controlled by one or more women, and that they also fall under the small business category, which, again, repeating from the last couple sessions, typically is going to be under $15 million in average annual revenue or less than 500 employees. It depends on your particular industry, but those are sort of the general rules to be a small business per the federal government. The goal is to level the playing field for women business owners. And the important piece about the WOSB and EDWOSB certifications is that the set-asides are specific to industries where women are underrepresented. So I'm talking specifically to federal contracting here. So what they will do is there is a list, and I can put a link in on this slide here when I send out the copy of them. There's a list of NAICS codes, which are industry classifications that identify these are what the government has decided are industries where women are historically underrepresented. So you might see like construction, manufacturing, those types of industries, and there's certainly others. So just because you are a woman-owned business does not mean you would necessarily qualify for the set-aside in federal contracting unless your business falls in one of those industries. So that's important to look as, depending on, we can talk about this as well, depending on what benefits you're looking, like what market you're looking to target with your certification, that could be a determining factor in whether you decide to go through the process. So if you're looking at only doing federal contracting and your industry is not one of those that are covered, it may not be worth it to go through the process. But if you're looking to still get certified to do business with Pennsylvania or to do business with a larger company, there could still be potential to go through and do that. But that's just important to note for the federal program specifically. Their set-asides are only limited to certain industries, which I will put a link to that when I send out the slides. To qualify, again, you need to be 51% owned and controlled by one or more women who are U.S. citizens. Again, this is very similar to all of the other certifications, and this will be the same for the minority-owned when we get there as well. So what control means is that, that women are involved, women are writing checks, women are signing contracts, women are making sales. The women involved in the company are making the big decisions for the company. Typically, women-owned businesses do see this a lot, and this is why there are a lot of restrictions and changes to the certification programs in that what used to happen is there would be, well, I'm sure it still happens, but it used to be a lot more frequent where husband and wife companies, the husband used to, would own the company and then decide, hey, we want to go for women-owned certifications. So it might be 51-49 husband-wife. So they go and they switch the ownership so that the wife is the 51% owner, the husband's the 49% owner, but the husband is the one still running the business. And that's what they're trying to prevent, is that type of, again, there's certainly many other situations where this kind of stuff happens. We'll see it in when we talk about the veteran certification next week. But that's part of why there's so many of these restrictions and qualifications and eligibility things in place, because there's lots of fraud that can happen. So they're looking to make sure that women are truly the ones controlling and running the day-to-day aspects of the business. Women have to hold the highest positions in management as well as any officer positions if those are different. Again, must meet the SBA size standards for your industry, which again, the vast majority of our clients will meet that. Again, you're looking 15 million revenue or under 500 employees. And you have to have unconditional ownership, which means, typically that, you can't be owned, the company that you're certifying can't be owned by another company. So even if you are the owner of the parent company, it's going to have to be the parent company getting certified, not the subsidiaries. So, if ABC company owns DEF company, then DEF company is not going to be able to get certified. So it has to be owned by the women directly. Okay. There's another certification that exists is the EDWOSB. So this stands for Economically Disadvantaged Women-Owned Small Business certification. And again, this is something that's typically specific to the federal marketplace only. But a lot of um, to qualify for economically disadvantaged is very similar if you were on last week's session about 8A. These are the same numbers from the 8A program. So you have to have personal net worth less than 850,000, which excludes your primary residence and any retirement accounts. Adjusted gross income over 3 years not exceeding 400,000, and total assets not exceeding $6.5 million. Which, again, those numbers generally seem high to me, but what the government has determined, businesses under those amounts are typically going to have a disadvantage when it comes to competing fairly in the federal marketplace. And the main purpose of the program is to assist women who face economic disadvantages. And similarly, there will be within that list of industries that qualify for the Women-Owned Small Business Program, there will be a subset of industries that qualify for the economically disadvantaged designation as well. So you'll want to make sure if you are looking at either or both designations that that your business industry does qualify. So typically the process, you're going to have a couple of options here, and this is why we've grouped both the women-owned and minority-owned together in that they're very similar in their processes. So you're going to get your documentation together and determine, are you eligible? Do you meet the requirements of this program? I don't know why I put left self-certification there. So there used to be a self-certification option. I will delete this. I don't know why that's in there. I must have just copied and pasted from another thing. So you used to be able to self-certify as a woman-owned business. That has changed in the last few years. Now all the processes are some form of formal certification. So you can't just go, in the federal marketplace, you can now, as we discussed last week, you can check either small or small diverse business, and those you can self-certify. But women, veteran, and service-able veteran are no longer able to be self-certified. So to certify, you're going to go through there's sort of two ways you can do it. One, if you're just looking to do business in the federal marketplace, you're not looking to do business with Pennsylvania, you're not looking to do business with, say, Staples or Air Products or Crayola or any of those kind of companies. You're just looking to do business with the federal government. You can go through the SBA's, I got to update that website too. Apply through certifications.sba.gov. Just in the last week or two, they changed the website. I thought I went and changed all the slides, but I did not. So they've now lumped together 8A, HubZone, women-owned, and veteran-owned, and service-stable veteran-owned. All are now through this one website, that's super helpful, assuming it works. So you'll go and apply through there. You'll go through the process. That process is free. And then you'll get your women-owned small business certification. But typically that is only going to be valid for the federal marketplace. You also have the option to do a third-party certification. And in that case, you can do this certification and not have to and just upload your certificate here into the SBA's website, and you can get the SBA designation as well. So the third-party certifications, there are 4 entities that are approved by the federal government to provide the certification. The Women's Business Enterprise National Council, or WBENC, National Women Business Owners Corporation, the El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and the U.S. Women's Chamber of Commerce. So all 4 are equally able to provide that certification. The one note I will make is if you are looking to do business with Pennsylvania in particular, with the government, then you're going to need to have the Women's Business Enterprise National Council certification. That's the only one that Pennsylvania accepts. So getting one of these 3, if you're looking to do business in Pennsylvania, is not going to help in that situation. So you want to make sure if you are doing that to do business in Pennsylvania, you get this one. Typically, these certifications range about $300 to $500 a year. So you pay $300 to $500. It's based on the size of your business. So most of our clients will pay about $300 in the first year until based on their business size. And then each year you'll have to go through a recertification process, and then you have to pay another recurring fee, and it's usually about the same as that $300 a year, in order to get recertified. So there is an expense to it, which can impact whether folks apply for it or not, but it does come with other benefits. And we may talk about those on another slide, but they have events, they have networking, they have professional development. They have partnerships with larger companies that recognize those certifications. So there are benefits beyond just the certification to help justify that extra cost. So again, just a note, if you're just looking to do federal work, you can do the free version through the SBA. If you're looking to do business with a large company or with the state government, you're going to want to make sure that you have you're probably going to need one of those third-party certifications and make sure you get the right ones. And then what you can do is if you get the one from WeBank, you can take that one and upload it to the SBA certification website, and then you don't have to basically do two separate certifications. You can just use that one. Okay. The types of documentation you'll need proof of ownership and control. So they're going to look at your corporate documents, your operating agreement. They're going to ask for canceled checks. They're going to ask for contracts. They're going to ask for, they'll ask for a list of like who's the primary person that does these tasks in the business. Now it doesn't mean that women have to do every single one of those things. It just means that it has to be obvious that, that basically, one or more of the women in the company are the end decider on these things. You'll need to provide personal financial statements if you're looking for the economically disadvantaged designation. You'll also need to provide any business licenses, registrations, proof that your business is in good standing, things like that. You'll also need to provide business financials as well. Typically, again, you want to make sure everything is as accurate, as complete as can be when you submit it. Typically for these, I'm not sure, the SBA's timeline is probably, with all of these, I would say anywhere from 3 to 6 months. You just want to make sure that you have, allot that amount of time, because typically it's going to take anywhere from, I would say, 3 to 6 months. It can be sooner, but typically because there's more of a formal process involved, you're not going to necessarily see, it's not going to necessarily be a quick process. So you want to make sure, especially if you're responding to something, that you get certified as soon as possible. Right. Some of the benefits of the certification, again, you get access to contracts set aside for women and economically disadvantaged women and small businesses. It gives you that competitive advantage, so you're limiting your competition to just those other certified businesses. Depending on which ones you go through, there are business development and networking opportunities which can help you connect with other entrepreneurs, other women entrepreneurs. Moving on to the minority-owned business certification, or MBE, minority business enterprise certification. It's very similar, almost exactly the same as the women-owned process. That it recognizes this is a strictly third-party certification. So this is the WeBank equivalent for the minority-owned businesses. So there is no federal minority-owned certification yet. I have not heard of one coming, but it doesn't mean there won't. So that's kind of covered by the small disadvantage self-certification as well as the 8A program. There is no just standard minority-owned certification like the WOSB program. So the certifying agencies for this, primarily the National Minority Supplier Development Council, which is like WeBank, and also some states and local governments will certify themselves. Pennsylvania does not certify themselves, which we will talk about in 2 weeks. At the last session, Pennsylvania does not do its own certification. It relies on the other certification programs that are out there, but some other states will do it. The purpose of it is to facilitate access to private sector contracts as well as promoting supplier diversity. So similarly, very much the same types of eligibility criteria, 51% owned and controlled by minority individuals, which are typically considered African American, Hispanic, Native American, Asian Pacific American, and Asian Indian American. You'll want to check specifically with the NMSDC in case that changes, but those are typically the groups that it considers minority for their certification program. Same thing as the WBE, minority owners must manage the daily operations and hold the highest positions and own and control the operations of the company. Similarly, must also be U.S. citizens. Business size, typically they're going to follow the SBA guidelines, but you do want to check to make sure that that it would still qualify under that, that your business would still qualify based on their guidelines. One of the questions that I just got is, can you be certified both as a woman and a minority? The answer is yes. But it just sort of depends on who you're looking to on your target markets, because they both, the cost for the MBE, let me just see here. The MBA process, it costs about the same. It's about $300 to $500 per year. So it's one of those you can certainly get. You can, if you're a minority, woman, veteran, you can qualify for all three, but it just depends on what your appetite for, spending on those certifications are and who you're looking to target market. For example, with Pennsylvania, we'll talk about in a couple of weeks, it doesn't, you're either small or small diverse. So it doesn't matter whether you're qualifying under women or minority or veteran. As long as you have one of those, you qualify as a small diverse. So it may not be worth it to get certified. Certainly you can, but you'll want to, and that's something, certainly we are here as a resource to talk through that and see what the best option might be. All right. So same thing, application process, you're going to gather the same type of documentation. You're going to go through their online application. It's usually quite a process. It's pretty straightforward. It's just, a lot of information that they're asking for and a lot of information you may not have, you may not normally, have on hand. You'll need to provide, they'll have their qualifications for what proof of ethnicity is, financial statements, tax returns, business history. And then they also do both the third-party certifiers for women-owned as well as MBE. They do site visits. A lot of them have moved to also have virtual site visits. I know that's probably changed a little bit back towards in-person since we're further away from COVID. But they will do some form of site visit to again make sure that that again the women or minorities are in charge of the business. Okay. For the state process, it's going to depend entirely on that particular state. Usually there's not going to be reciprocity between those. So, say New York does its own certification, that doesn't mean that's going to count for Pennsylvania and vice versa. So you're going to want to make sure that if you are looking to access a particular market, that you do the appropriate certification there. Some will accept other certifications, some you have to go through their process. Okay. And again, same thing, you're looking at about 3 to 6 months, typically, could be less, could be longer. It just depends where you fall in their application process and how many they're going through at that particular time. So same thing, you get access to their partnerships through their corporate supplier diversity programs. So they have partnerships with other large companies that are looking to do business with more minority contractors. They also have networking and business development events. So they do educational training. They'll have businesses come and talk about how to do business with them. They'll also have local matchmaking events. There's the local chapter of the NMSDC is the Eastern Minority Supplier Development Council, or EMSDC, and they are based out of Philadelphia. Just like WeBank is also based out of Philadelphia. So they will typically have events, in the region. Typically they're going to be closer to Philly, but they do some stuff up here. And you also can get listed in directories for minority-owned businesses, same as women-owned. Okay. Just a recap of 8A, just because that is a program that also covers if you are considered socially and economically disadvantaged, either as a woman-owned business or as a minority-owned business, you may also be able to consider 8A. So you have access to, again, it's a specific training program. If you go back through our last session, you'll be able to get more details on how to qualify for that. And again, if you're kind of debating which one do I go for, certainly I'm happy to answer any questions on that. So just a quick little table here of kind of an overview of what we discussed. WOSB is simply 51% women-owned. The certifying body, depending on, you can go through either avenue, is SBA or WBENC. And you can look at, again, you can do SBA for free. WeBank costs money, but it can be more applicable than the SBA certification itself. And primarily because it's going through the federal government, it only really applies for federal contracts, but the WBENC can apply for other things. Economically disadvantaged, you just have to have that extra designation. You have to meet the criteria for economically disadvantaged. MBE is specifically a non-governmental certification, but it can apply. For example, Pennsylvania will accept that for their small diverse business program. and you do get extra benefits in terms of corporate contacts and networking. And then 8A, like I said, you can go back to our last week's session and watch that if you do have questions about eligibility for the 8A program. There is a question about grants for different certifications. Typically, there might be programs for women-owned or minority-owned, but they're going to each have their own specific eligibility criteria. I don't think the entities themselves, like WeBank or the NMSDC, I don't know if they have grant programs. They may have them every so often, but I don't know of any standing programs that they have. But again, what will qualify you to be eligible for that grant will be particular to whoever is providing the funding. So it doesn't automatically open up for grant programs. Hopefully that answered that question. Okay. Some other resources that are there. Again, I thought I went and changed all these. They must not have hit save. It's certifications.sba.gov or the SBA's Women Business Center, which I believe is based out of Philadelphia, which are SBA's resources. Certainly the Lehigh SBDC can provide assistance in talking through your options, what the requirements are. We're not able to do the application on your behalf, but we can certainly talk through the process, answer questions about documents and things like that. The websites for WeBank and the NMSDC are here. So if you want to go check out those programs on your own, you're welcome to do that. Pennsylvania does have an office specifically for small and diverse businesses that you can utilize as a resource. And I will also be providing checklists for these programs like I will for the others. I just have to get them uploaded. Right. So the first thing to do is just make sure that you're eligible for the programs that you're interested in to see which ones may be an option. Get the documents together. It'll make your life a lot easier to have those documents ahead of time instead of trying to gather them as you go. Again, deciding how you want to go through the process. Do you want to do the SBA certification or do you want to go through a third party? You can certainly schedule an appointment with your local SBDC or us if we're your local SBDC. Then do the application process with a particular entity. And then obviously, the biggest thing, we'll talk about this in a couple of weeks, but one of the biggest things is, if you're going to go for any of these certifications, make sure that you're marketing yourself and, getting yourself out there. Just having the certification does not necessarily mean contracts are going to come your way. You're still going to have to go out and market yourself. There is a question, this is actually a good question to address in terms of what they consider control. Can you hire out someone to run your business if you're certified? The answer to that is going to typically be no. So they want to make sure, they're typically not going to go for that. It could be possible if you're hiring another woman or another minority. It's possible. But they want to make sure that you as the owner still have some form of control over the company. So the answer is likely going to be no, but everything is case by case depending on the particular situation. So upcoming, we have our veteran and service-disabled veteran certification discussion on the 12th, next Tuesday. And then on the 19th, we'll be talking about state and local certifications, primarily how Pennsylvania does it, just because we're not necessarily versed in everything going on in our neighboring states. And also just how to leverage your certification in general. So we'll talk about how to take advantage of your certification and what your next steps should be. So that is it. Because these two programs are so similar, it was, there's a lot of overlap. So like I said, the recording should pop up in your email sometime this afternoon. And I will hopefully by the end of the week, I will get all of the presentations and handouts and everything uploaded into the system. And in the meantime, please feel free to go back and watch the previous sessions, and we'll look forward to seeing you in one of the upcoming sessions. All right. Thank you very much.